20 years of marriage, two beautiful children, and a vow renewal ceremony that morning, our life seemed picture perfect. Across the candlelit table at Le Chateau, Sarah looked stunning in her burgundy dress, though something about her smile seemed practiced. "Excuse me for a minute," I said, heading to the restroom. That is when I heard her voice from around the corner speaking quietly but clearly into her phone. "I have already transferred most of his inheritance. Selling the house next month, divorce, taking the kids to California." My world collapsed in 20 seconds. Hey everyone, before I continue this wild story, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want more shocking real-life stories like this one. I was not always an architect. My journey began with nothing but determination and a drafting pencil. For 15 years, I poured 60 hours weekly into building my career, designing homes for others, while ensuring my own family had everything they needed. The irony is not lost on me now. I met Sarah during my sophomore year of college. It was raining that October afternoon when I ducked into Moonbeam Coffee to escape the downpour. She sat by the window laughing at something her friend said. That laugh, musical and genuine, made me spill my coffee as I stared. When our eyes met, something electric passed between us. I introduced myself, awkward and dripping wet. "I am Max," I mumbled. She smiled and said, "I know who you are. We have world history together." Our first date was at Blue Note Jazz Club. Sarah wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. We talked until the owner politely informed us they were closing. 6 months later, I proposed at Hartman Ridge, overlooking the valley. Nothing fancy, just us, a picnic blanket, and my grandmother's ring. Sarah cried when I asked, nodding before I even finished the question. Early marriage tested us. Our apartment was tiny, student loans overwhelming. I worked days and attended night classes while Sarah waitressed. We survived on ramen and dreams. When I landed my first junior position at Hamilton Designs, Sarah framed my business card and hung it by our door. "First step toward greatness," she said. Thomas arrived 3 years into our marriage. I remember holding him, this tiny human with my chin and Sarah's blue eyes, and feeling terrified and exhilarated. Sarah was magnificent, exhausted but radiant. We took turns with midnight feedings, singing nonsense songs when he fussed. Those sleepless nights bonded us in ways I cannot explain. My breakthrough came when I designed the Westlake Community Center. The success allowed us to purchase our dream house in Connecticut, 4 bedrooms, maple trees in the yard, good schools nearby. Sarah painted each room herself, creating the home we had always imagined. Emma joined our family 2 years after the move. While Thomas was thoughtful and quiet like me, Emma burst into the world with Sarah's energy and laugh. Sarah decided to become a full-time mother, saying these years were precious and fleeting. I supported her choice, though it meant longer hours at the firm to maintain our lifestyle. As my reputation grew, so did my client list. Designing luxury homes for wealthy clients meant frequent travel and late nights. I missed soccer games and school plays. Sarah assured me the children understood that my sacrifice gave them opportunities. I believed her, never questioning the growing distance between us. 2 years ago, Sarah changed. She joined a book club, made new friends I never met, took weekend trips for mental health retreats. When I suggested date nights, she was often too tired or busy. "We are just preparing for empty nesting," she explained when Thomas started looking at colleges. I accepted this foolishly. 8 months ago, my parents died in a car accident returning from their anniversary dinner. The grief nearly broke me. Sarah seemed supportive, handling funeral arrangements while I processed the shock. My inheritance was substantial, $2.4 million plus my childhood home. Sarah suggested placing everything in our joint account for simplicity. Again, I never questioned her. Last month, feeling disconnected after my loss and her emotional absence, I suggested renewing our vows. 20 years deserve celebration, I said, expecting hesitation. Instead, Sarah embraced the idea with unexpected enthusiasm, planning an elaborate ceremony and booking Le Chateau for dinner afterward. The morning ceremony was beautiful. Surrounded by close friends and our children, we promised again to love each other until death. Sarah's eyes glistened with tears as she recited vows she had written herself. I believed every word, desperate for reconnection after our difficult year. Looking back, I missed so many signs. Her new password-protected phone, unexplained weekend absences, the hushed phone calls that ended when I entered rooms, the way she deflected questions about our future plans. My grief and trust blinded me to what should have been obvious. That evening at Le Chateau, Sarah wore the burgundy dress I had given her for Christmas. She looked nervous yet excited, checking her phone frequently. When her brother Michael called during dessert, she glanced at the screen and said, "I should take this. Order me coffee." I nodded, watching her walk toward the restrooms. Minutes later, I excused myself, heading in the same direction. The restaurant was designed with an alcove near the restrooms, creating a small blind corner. As I approached, I heard Sarah's voice, not her public voice, but her private one, lower and more controlled. "I have already transferred most of his inheritance to accounts he cannot access," she was saying. "Once the house is sold next month, I am filing for divorce and taking the kids to California. James is helping me find a place in San Francisco." My knees nearly buckled. Cold sweat broke out across my forehead as I pressed against the wall, suddenly needing its support. 20 years of marriage reduced to a clinical exit strategy. "No, Michael, the timing is perfect," she continued, oblivious to my presence around the corner. "The vow renewal was essential. It prevents any suspicion. Plus, it might help with the settlement if it comes to that." My stomach churned as her brother apparently asked a question. "Max, he is clueless as always, too trusting for his own good." Her laugh, that once musical sound, now felt like broken glass in my ears. "David is already setting up meetings with potential clients for me. His divorce was finalized last year, and he is eager to pick up where we left off before I met Max, David, her college boyfriend before me. The one who moved to California for a tech job. The kids will adjust. Thomas is almost 18, he will be at college anyway. Emma might struggle initially, but she will make new friends quickly. I have already researched the best schools in the area." I stood frozen, my mind racing to process this betrayal. 20 years, 2 children, countless memories, all apparently meaningless to her. My inheritance from my parents' money meant for our children's future stolen. Our home soon to be sold without my knowledge. My family about to be relocated 3,000 miles away. I forced myself to breathe, to think. Confronting her now would only warn her, allowing her to accelerate her plans or hide additional assets. I needed time, information, evidence. With trembling hands, I splashed cold water on my face in the restroom, staring at my reflection. The man looking back appeared shell-shocked, aged years in minutes. I straightened my tie, practiced a neutral expression, and returned to our table. Sarah was already seated, slightly flushed, phone face down beside her plate. She smiled at me, that practiced smile I had noticed earlier, but dismissed. "Everything okay with Michael?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "Just some drama with his girlfriend. Nothing important." The lie came effortlessly to her, accompanied by a dismissive wave. I signaled the waiter. "Bring us your best champagne," I requested. "We are celebrating 20 years together." Sarah raised her eyebrows, surprised by the extravagance but pleased. When the champagne arrived, she raised her glass. "To 20 more years," she toasted, eyes locked on mine. I clinked glasses, took a sip, and watched her over the rim. The champagne tasted like vinegar. The meal I had enjoyed earlier now sat like concrete in my stomach. Every gesture, every word from her now seemed theatrical, a performance refined over months or years. "You seem distracted," she said, reaching for my hand. "Are you thinking about your parents? Today must be bittersweet without them." The calculated sympathy designed to explain away any unusual behavior on my part made me nauseous. I squeezed her hand and lied right back. "Just grateful for everything we have." We drove home separately, her suggestion, as she wanted to stop by Susan's to return a dress. Another lie, I now realized. At home, I pretended normalcy as we prepared for bed. Sarah fell asleep quickly beside me while I lay awake, replaying 20 years of memories, questioning every moment. By dawn, one thing was clear. Our entire anniversary celebration, from the vow renewal to the romantic dinner, had been nothing but a calculated performance designed to blind me to her imminent betrayal. The next morning, Sarah kissed my cheek and announced she was heading to yoga with her friend Melissa. Then we might grab lunch. Do not wait for me. I nodded, forcing a smile until the front door closed behind her. The moment her car pulled away, I began searching. Her home office yielded the first evidence, a folder tucked beneath tax records containing glossy printouts of San Francisco real estate listings, all with notes in Sarah's handwriting. Perfect for E's dance classes, read one. Walking distance to D's office, noted another. D. David. The bottom drawer of her desk contained bank statements for accounts I never knew existed. Accounts in her name only showing regular deposits beginning 6 months after my parents' death. Accounts containing what appeared to be most of my inheritance. On our shared computer, I found emails about house appraisals and a listing appointment scheduled for the following week. Seller motivated for quick sale, Sarah had written. Need to close within 30 days. Our joint accounts showed a pattern of withdrawals small enough to avoid immediate notice but steady enough to have drained nearly $200,000 over 6 months. I called Arthur Blackwell, our family attorney who had handled my parents' estate. Max, I was going to call you next week, he said, sounding uncomfortable. Sarah requested copies of all inheritance documentation last month. Said you were planning some investments. My hands shook as I accessed our phone records online. Weekly calls to a San Francisco number appeared repeatedly, often lasting hours, always while I was at work or traveling. Social media provided the final piece. David Harrington's profile showed him checking in at restaurants and events in San Francisco, recently divorced. Executive at a tech firm. His most recent post, looking forward to new beginnings. The comments included one from a private account with just Sarah's initials, counting the days. I drove to Michael's workplace, a local insurance office where he served as manager. His face paled when he saw me. Max, what brings you here? I know everything I said, simply closing his office door. Michael slumped in his chair. I told her this was wrong, he admitted after a long silence. But she is my sister. How long, I asked. The affair? About a year. They reconnected at her college reunion while you were in Chicago for that conference. The money, the house, California. Michael looked genuinely pained. The plan developed gradually. After your parents died, she saw an opportunity. David is established there. He has connections. She convinced herself. You had been absent for years anyway. My children. She has already enrolled them in schools for next semester. Thomas at Berkeley Preparatory and Emma at Westlake Academy for Arts. I thanked him for his honesty, though it felt like thanking someone for a cleaner knife to the heart. My next stop was Gregory Winters, a divorce attorney recommended by a colleague who had survived his own unexpected divorce. His assessment was blunt after reviewing my evidence. She has been planning this meticulously. The unauthorized transfers are illegal, but recovering everything will be challenging. The house sale can be blocked. As for custody, California courts would favor her if the children were already established there. You need to act immediately. In my car afterward, I finally broke down. 20 years of memories crashed around me like shattered glass. The steering wheel caught my tears as I gasped for breath between sobs. My phone rang. Thomas. Dad, is something wrong with Mom? She called, asking weird questions about how I would feel about finishing high school in California, near Berkeley, where I want to apply anyway. Before I could formulate a response, another call beeped in Emma. When I called her back, she was crying. Daddy, I did something bad. Mom made me promise not to tell you about our adventure, but it feels wrong. She had me video chat with a dance academy in San Francisco last week. They have a spot for me in their program starting next month. The final discovery came that evening while Sarah was out shopping. Her email remained logged in on our shared tablet. There I found one-way tickets to San Francisco for 3 people, Sarah, Thomas, and Emma, dated for 3 weeks away. One way. No return. As evidence mounted, my shock transformed into a cold, focused anger. This was not just about me. My children were being manipulated, their lives uprooted for Sarah's selfish desires. The inheritance from my parents meant to secure their future was being stolen. 2 decades of trust had been weaponized against us all. I arranged the evidence carefully on our dining room table. Bank statements, real estate listings, email printouts, one-way tickets. When Sarah returned home carrying shopping bags from stores we could not afford, she froze upon seeing me. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice unnaturally high. "The truth," I replied calmly. "Please sit down." She hesitated, then lowered herself into a chair, eyes darting over the documents. "You went through my things, my emails. That is an invasion of privacy. Like transferring my inheritance without consent is theft," I countered. "Like selling our home without my knowledge is fraud. You do not understand." She began, adopting a placating tone. "I was going to discuss everything with you. These are just options I was exploring. Options that include one-way tickets to California. Options that include enrolling our children in schools without telling me. Options that include apartments walking distance from David's office." Her face changed at David's name shock, followed by calculation. "You are misinterpreting things. David is just an old friend helping with potential investments. I recorded your conversation at the restaurant. I lied, watching her carefully. Every word about the transfers, the divorce, taking the kids. The transformation was instantaneous and terrifying. The mask of loving wife vanished completely, replaced by cold hostility. Fine. Yes, I have been planning to leave. Can you blame me? Do you know what it is like being married to someone who is never present, who prioritizes buildings over family? So you steal my inheritance and plan to take my children across the country after I just renewed vows with you." "The vow renewal was my idea," she said with disturbing pride. "I needed to prevent any suspicion. It might also help with settlement terms." "You used my parents' death as an opportunity," I said, my voice breaking. "Money they meant for their grandchildren's future." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "Your parents never liked me anyway, and the kids will be better off without your workaholic influence. David can provide stability presence. While you spent 20 years lying to me, my mind raced through our history, questioning every moment, every memory." "Not everything was a lie," she said almost gently. "But I have been dying inside for years, Max. This marriage has been over for a long time. You were just too busy to notice." The doorbell rang. Michael entered without waiting for an answer, obviously expected by Sarah. "Everything okay?" he asked tensely. "Max knows," Sarah said flatly. "He found everything." Michael looked pained but stood beside his sister. "Let us all calm down and discuss this rationally. Sarah has legitimate grievances, Max. Your work schedule, do not, I warned. Do not justify theft and manipulation as a reasonable response to my working hours." The front door opened again. Thomas and Emma returned from their friends' houses, stopping abruptly at the tableau before them. "What is happening?" Thomas asked, eyes moving between us. "Your mother was just explaining why she planned to move you both to California without discussing it with any of us," I said, "and why she transferred the money your grandparents left for your college funds into private accounts." Mom Emma's voice was small, confused. Sarah's expression hardened. "This is not how I wanted to tell you. But yes, we are making a fresh start in California. With David, who you will both love once you get to know him." David, Thomas repeated. "Your ex-boyfriend from college. The one from those old photos, who is going to pay for Berkeley now?" Emma asked, tears forming. "Grandma and Grandpa's money was for our college." Sarah grabbed her purse. "I cannot do this now. You are turning them against me before they understand." She moved toward the door. "I am staying with Michael tonight. When I return tomorrow, I will have my lawyers with me." "Mom, wait," Emma cried, but Sarah was already gone, Michael following after an apologetic glance. Thomas put his arm around his sister. "We are not going anywhere," he said firmly. "Not to California, not away from Dad, not away from our school and friends." I gathered my children, closed their loyalty, a life raft in a storm I never saw coming. "Go upstairs," I said gently. "I need to make some calls. We will figure this out together." After they reluctantly went to their rooms, I sat alone at the table, surrounded by evidence of betrayal. 20 years. 2 children. A lifetime of memories now tainted by doubt. My chest constricted as panic threatened to overwhelm me. At 3 in the morning, I found myself gasping for breath on the bathroom floor, wondering if my entire life had been built on lies. As dawn broke, clarity emerged through the pain. This was not just about a marriage ending. It was about protecting my children from being uprooted, securing their financial future, and preserving their stability. Sarah had declared war on our family. I needed to fight not out of vengeance, but out of love for the 2 people who mattered most. The following morning brought renewed determination. My first call was to Patricia Holden, reportedly the best divorce attorney in 3 counties. Her office opened at 7 and I was her first appointment. Given the evidence of financial misconduct and the imminent risk of property disposal and child removal, we have grounds for emergency injunctions, Patricia explained. We can file today to freeze all assets, block the house sale, and prevent removal of the children from the state. By noon, the legal machinery was in motion. Emergency court filings documented the unauthorized transfers and interstate custody threat. Injunctions prevented any further financial movements or property transactions. I met with our bank managers, providing court documents that secured remaining funds and flagged Sarah's accounts for fraudulent transfers. A forensic accountant began the process of documenting and tracing every missing dollar. The locksmith arrived at 2, changing every lock and security code as legally advised by Patricia. You are not blocking her from her possessions, Patricia had explained. You are securing the family home pending court resolution. She can access her belongings with proper notice and supervision. Friends emerged as unexpected allies. James and Karen from next door provided statements about overhearing Sarah's California plans months ago. My assistant had documented Sarah's calls to my office, always asking about my travel schedule, never about family matters. Most painful was my call to David Harrington, a conversation Patricia recorded with my permission. I know about the affair, the plans, the money, I said without preamble when he answered. His hesitation spoke volumes. Look, man, I am sorry about how this played out. Sarah assured me your marriage was effectively over, just a formality at this point. And my inheritance, my children's college funds, were those just formalities too? His uncomfortable silence confirmed what I suspected. He had not known the full extent of Sarah's deception. I never wanted to hurt anyone, he finally said. Especially not your kids. They are not moving to California, I said firmly. And I suggest you reconsider your role in breaking up a family. Thomas and Emma showed remarkable resilience despite their confusion and pain. In our family meeting, I promised complete transparency moving forward. I will never lie to you or hide things from you, I told them. Your mother still loves you both. This situation is complicated and painful for everyone. But why did she lie? Emma asked the hardest question of all. Sometimes adults make mistakes, I answered carefully. Sometimes they convince themselves that what they want is also what is best for everyone else. Thomas, nearly an adult himself, saw through my diplomatic response. She chose herself over us, Dad. You do not have to sugarcoat it. Sarah's attempts to enter the house that week were met with the new security system. Her demands to take the children were countered with court documents. Her brother's efforts to mediate faltered when confronted with the extensive evidence. The night before our emergency court hearing, Sarah appeared at the door alone. Gone was the cold strategist, replaced by a woman suddenly realizing the consequences of her actions. We can settle this privately, she suggested. Be reasonable, Max. I made some mistakes, but tearing apart our lives in public helps no one. Reasonable would have been discussing problems in our marriage, I replied. Reasonable would have been joint counseling, trial separation, honest conversation. What you did was calculated betrayal on every level. I never meant to hurt the children, she insisted. Yet you were taking them away from their home, their school, their friends, and their father. You were stealing their college funds. Intent and impact are different things, Sarah. The courtroom the next day was tense, but orderly. Judge Harriet Wilkins reviewed our evidence with increasing concern. Sarah's attorney attempted to frame the situation as a simple marital breakdown with unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing, Judge Wilkins interrupted. Mr. Edwards has documented systematic transfer of inheritance funds, unauthorized enrollment of children in out-of-state schools, and a premeditated plan to sell jointly owned property without consent. This goes well beyond unfortunate timing. Sarah's testimony contradicted her previous actions and documented statements. When asked about the transfers, she claimed they were for investment purposes. When questioned about California schools, she suggested they were just exploring options. Thomas and Emma had provided written statements, expressing their desire to remain in Connecticut with me. The judge gave these significant weight. Judge Wilkins's ruling was decisive. All assets frozen pending full financial accounting, the inheritance to be returned to protected accounts, the house sale blocked, temporary custody awarded to me with supervised visitation for Sarah, and a prohibition against either parent taking the children out of state without court approval. Sarah sat stunned as her carefully constructed plan collapsed around her. Her attorney whispered urgently in her ear, but she seemed unable to process what was happening. We returned home that afternoon with a sense of having weathered the worst of the storm. The children were subdued but relieved. "What happens now?" Emma asked. "We rebuild," I answered, holding them both close. One day at a time. That evening we discovered Sarah had already packed and shipped family heirlooms and valuables to a storage facility in San Francisco. Another legal process began to recover these items. Each new discovery reinforced the extent of her betrayal and the depth of her planning. As weeks passed, Sarah's desperation grew. David withdrew from their relationship as legal complications mounted. Her California dreams evaporated as financial realities set in. The final custody hearing awarded me primary custody, with Sarah granted regular visitation. The morning after that final ruling, Sarah appeared outside our house screaming demands and accusations until neighbors called police. The officers gently escorted her away as Thomas and Emma watched silently from upstairs windows. "Is Mom going to be okay?" Emma asked afterward. Eventually I answered truthfully. "This is hard for everyone, but especially for her right now. Her plans did not work out, and she is struggling to accept that." 6 months later, our home feels different, smaller without Sarah, but somehow more peaceful. I renovated several rooms, creating new spaces that reflect our changing family. Thomas's college acceptance letters have arrived, and he has decided to attend State University, staying close to home during this transition time. Emma has rejoined her dance team after briefly quitting during the worst of the divorce. Her instructors note her increased emotional maturity and depth in performances. "Sometimes pain makes art more truthful," she told me recently, wisdom beyond her years. My work has changed too. I now select projects more carefully, prioritizing quality over quantity. My firm supported reduced hours initially, and I proved I could deliver exceptional work within reasonable timeframes. The myth of 60-hour weeks being necessary for success was just that, a myth. We have created new family traditions: Sunday morning hikes, Thursday game nights, monthly museum visits. These simple routines have become anchors in our new reality. Last week I met Grace during a parent committee meeting at Emma's school. A literature professor with kind eyes and genuine interest in our conversation, she suggested coffee afterward. For the first time since everything happened, I felt that flutter of possibility. We talked for hours, and I found myself laughing authentically, something that had become rare. Sarah eventually did move to California, though alone and with limited financial resources. Her relationship with the children remains strained but improving through family therapy. She calls regularly now, making efforts to rebuild trust in small ways. Looking back, I can see the red flags I missed throughout our marriage. The emotional withdrawal disguised as independence. The conflict avoidance mistaken for harmony. The separate dreams masquerading as joint goals. While painful to acknowledge, these realizations help me understand how 20 years could end so suddenly, yet had been unraveling invisibly for so long. My relationship with Thomas and Emma has deepened through honesty and shared recovery. We discuss difficult topics openly now, including their fears about their own future relationships. "How do you trust again after something like this?" Thomas asked recently. "You recognize that trust is always a choice," I answered. and that while trust can make you vulnerable to pain, its absence guarantees loneliness. The hardest lesson has been distinguishing between love and its performance. Sarah performed love perfectly while feeling something else entirely. I now value authenticity over appearance, substance over ceremony. Our vow renewal ceremony, once a painful memory of manipulation, has become a powerful reminder that words mean nothing without consistent actions behind them. 20 years of marriage ended, but my life did not. This unexpected chapter brought growth I never sought, but ultimately needed. I moved from victim to survivor to someone creating a new life with greater awareness and appreciation. My inheritance was eventually recovered through legal proceedings, now properly secured for the children's education. The family home remains ours, a foundation for stability when everything else shifted. Most importantly, Thomas and Emma continue to thrive. Despite the upheaval, their resilience, a daily inspiration. Last night we had dinner together, just the three of us making pasta and laughing about Emma's disastrous science experiment. I realized something profound. In that ordinary moment, genuine joy had returned to our home. Not the picture-perfect life we projected before, but something more valuable, authentic connection based on weathering storms together. The betrayal nearly broke me, but instead it broke open my understanding of what truly matters. Sometimes life's most painful moments reveal the path toward our most authentic selves. The facade of perfection has been replaced by something stronger, a family bonded by truth rather than appearance, by shared healing rather than shared pretense. Have you ever experienced a moment when betrayal became a blessing in disguise? Share your story in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of overcoming life's unexpected challenges. Remember, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something more authentic and meaningful. Thank you for listening, and may your own path lead to genuine connections that withstand life's hardest tests.